You mentioned sustained rainfall, warm water. What is the most dangerous aspect of this storm that you're most concerned about?
I'm most concerned about the water in this one, Brittany. It's a great question because what people don't realize is oftentimes when hurricanes are approaching, we hear a lot about how fast the winds are. And this one has 155 miles per hour winds. That will certainly cause destruction. But water is the deadliest aspect of a hurricane. Studies have shown that, whether it's the storm surge or the inland freshwater flooding from rainfall. And I expect quite a bit of both with this storm. We're going to see record storm surges, I believe, along the Gulf Coast of Florida. And we're going to see rainfall measured in feet, literally measured in feet. And that's going to cause devastating flooding. I just hope that people are prepared and understand that the water threat is equally and in some cases even more deadly than the wind threat. And so we need to be prepared for all of those threats, as well as the tornadic threat that will remain in the peninsula of Florida much of Wednesday and Thursday.
And can you expand more on that tornadic threat there?
I can. I mean, it's just one of those secondary things that happen with landfalling storms that people often don't realize. In the rain bands to the right of the eye of the storm, you can often get tornadoes spitting out of those rain bands. And we've seen that the last 12 hours or so as we get these rain bands moving into Peninsula Florida as the storm is still off the coast. And they're spinning up tornadoes all throughout the peninsula of Florida. And so that threat will remain in addition to the more direct threats of surge, rainfall, and wind.
And when we opened with this interview, issued a direct warning that this is urgent. How do you anticipate that Hurricane Ian is going to stack up to other storms that Florida has seen in recent history?
It's going to be right there with them. As you note, Brittany, Florida has only had four category 4 or larger storms make landfall. And you mentioned there was Andrew, there was Irma, there was Michael and Charlie. This storm is already as strong or stronger than some of those and physically larger than some of those. People remember Charlie in this area. It was a Cat 4 storm. So that has implications for the reach and extent of the wind damage, the rain damage, and the surge damage. So these are not the same storms by any means. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think Ian could rank as the worst hurricane the west coast of Florida has seen in recent record.
Wow. And I know you said that as the storm is approaching Florida now, it's inching toward a Cat 5. Can you expect it to reach a Category 5 storm?
I don't know if it will or not, but my message there is it really doesn't matter. A strong Cat 4 and a weak Cat 5 are going to do about the same amount of damage. So it's going to be a bad situation either way. So it certainly could. It's certainly on the cusp of it, but I think we all get fixated more on the category. My message to anyone listening is from an impact standpoint, a strong Category 4 storm and a lower end Category 5 storm are the same thing.
Got it. And from what you're describing, it sounds like this is going to be a storm that Floridians are going to be telling their kids about. So, what has the local and federal government response been so far?
Well, I think they've done what they could. I've seen declarations of state of emergencies by the states at the state level, and I know that FEMA, the National Weather Service, and other federal agencies that are relevant have been mobilized for some time, EPA and others. So I think the federal response has been very, very, very good. This was a particularly challenging storm because in the days leading up to it, our best weather models were a little bit divergent in terms of where the storm was going to go. There were some that had it moving more up into the panhandle of Florida, and some were turning it into the peninsula. In the last day or two, we've started to see those models converging on this turn that we're starting to see into the west coast of Florida. Typically, our models come into a bit more consensus earlier than they did with the storm. And so that did create some challenges for planners and emergency managers having to make decisions. But I think they erred on the right side of this by making a decision for the worst case scenario. And if some places had to do certain things and it ends up not being as bad where they are, well, then that's okay. We sometimes have to evacuate and be okay with the fact that our house is still standing. But indeed, for the west coast of Florida and central Florida, this is going to be worse than any of the things they have seen in recent years. And so my thoughts and prayers are already with that region because I, as a professional in this field, that's why I couldn't sleep last night. I know this is going to be a bad situation today and into Thursday.